Good morning. Thanks for coming out this morning. As you know, this is a space we get together on a regular basis in November and February to talk about the forecast. And Dr. Tom Stinson, every time, either directly or indirectly, tells you it's about the forecast, it's not about him. Today, it's about him. So, with great respect and sadness on our part, here to announce that Dr. Stinson will be stepping down as state economist after 26 years of public service. He has been a standard bearer for getting the information to the public. He has been here through thick and thin, and mostly in the recent years, a lot of uncertainty, has given us information and guidance and judgment that's helped us through really difficult economic times. That being said, I'm also announcing with pleasure that his successor, Laura Kalambakidis, is with us today, and am pleased to introduce her. Following in Tom's footsteps, she's a University of Minnesota professor and has experience at the national level, working with the United States Department of Treasury on tax analysis. She's also done work here in the state. So the kinds of service and the kinds of excellence that Tom has really brought all of us to expect, we expect to continue. But for now, I would just like to salute Tom. He's been here for so many years, and we're just incredibly lucky to have a man of his commitment serve the state. The back of the press release shows you the previous state economists and their tenure, and then comes Tom. He has made this job an institution. He has made this position something that we count on and integral to the financial management of the state's affairs. We will all miss him. Fortunately, we will hopefully hear his voice from time to time, guiding us both informally and probably formally, saying, "Commissioner, you should do this," because that has been an incredibly important thing for this commissioner and prior ones. He's been a trusted advisor and person of just great caliber that has advised commissioners, legislators, governors alike. So that is the news for today. And imagine you might have some questions, and I will turn it over to Dr. Stinson.
So, Dr. Stinson, congratulations. Why are you stepping down from this position but not the U position? I mean, are you just trying to lighten your load a little bit, or why not retire altogether?
Is this a planted question from my wife? No, as to why I'm stepping down now, now's a good time. The state's in pretty good financial shape. The economy's in better shape than it's been for quite a few years, and this is just a good time to do it. And it's especially a good time to do it when somebody like Laura's available to take over, because Laura's really got a great set of credentials, and she's going to be a great state economist. And of course, she has unbelievable help from the staff, John and Matt. They're going to help her quite a bit. So this is just a good time to do it. But I'm not ready to sit and watch television all day or anything like that, and so I thought it'd be good to go back to the university, to a more full-time position with the university for a few years.
Are you going to miss it, Dr. Stinson?
Greatly. I mean, this is the best job that I could have, and it's a fun job. I work with stimulating people. It's an important job. It's interesting. Every day you get up and you say, what's going to happen today to the economy or to revenues or whatever. So I'm going to miss it greatly. But this is a good time to leave. It's not like a year ago when there was all this uncertainty out there with the fiscal cliff and what was going to go on there. It's not like it was a couple of years ago when it looked like the U.S. economy might not even get out of the recession or anything like that. This is a good time to scale back my efforts.
What's the hardest part I mean, the hardest time for you to deal with? I mean, you've been on a roller coaster up and down.
Yeah, the hardest, I mean, almost all of the time that I've been there has been good times. I mean, you know, I never went home at night and thought, geez, I wish I didn't have to go back to work again tomorrow or anything like that. You know, it's really been a good time. But the shutdown, the statewide shutdown, was really a difficult time. It was a difficult time because we'd spent years telling everybody that was important on Wall Street that in Minnesota we had a culture of fiscal responsibility. And then to have the shutdown because we couldn't deliver on that, that was a really disappointing time. And I'll tell you a story. And the story, Commissioner Showalter would tell you the same story, and that is that after the shutdown we had to go to New York and tell the rating agencies, one of which had downgraded us a while before, and another one had downgraded us just because we thought about issuing tobacco bonds, but we still had AAA from Standard & Poor's. And so, you know, in the back of our minds, we knew that we weren't going to be AAA from Standard & Poor's, but we still held out that tiniest bit of hope, you know. So we go in there and you check in, and then they tell you what floor you're supposed to go. And I noticed it was a different floor than where we usually go. Usually you go to the top floor of the Standard & Poor's building. And there are these big conference rooms that look out on the skyline of New York, and you know, it's really nice. They have good treats there, and you sit at this big conference table and everything like that. And we weren't going to that floor. And so we got off on the floor, and it was, you know, the 17th floor or something like that, and there was kind of a maze of Warren-like offices and so on like that. Went into an interior conference room, no view of anything or anything like that, just a tiny conference room, no treats, and we knew we were toast. So.
Who was your favorite governor to work for?
You know, they were all interesting in their way, and I learned from all of them. And so I really don't have a favorite. I mean, I had different relationships. Part of it is the governor's relationship with the state economist is determined by the governor as to how much he wants. My role is just to provide him with the best information that I can about the situation, the state's economy, and the state's revenues. We always say, you know, my role is to tell him how much money he has to spend if you don't change the tax system, not how to spend it, and not whether he should try and change the tax system to have more money, but just how much money he has to spend if you don't change the tax system.
What advice do you have for your predecessor? What have you told her?
My successor?
Oh, sorry, my successor.
My predecessor is already retired, so I don't know what to tell him. I think that the biggest lesson I've learned is how nice it is to have excellent, superb staff and to have them doing the work for me. And so I think one of the things I would tell Laura is that she needs to pay a lot of attention to what Matt and John say because they really do know a lot of stuff. People in Minnesota don't realize how lucky they are to have the kind of public servants that John Peliquin and Matt Shepner are. And John Peliquin has done his job longer than I've done my job. And that's pretty unusual. In most states, people burn out after a couple or 3 years, and to have somebody with John's experience around that long, that's really good.
You have felt that there's a lot of political pressure on you to adjust your forecasts in any way?
No, not really. I'll tell you a story about Governor Perpich. And Governor Perpich was the first governor I worked for. And Governor Perpich would always call me in October, toward the middle of October, when I didn't have a clue what the forecast was going to be or anything like that. He'd tell me, you know, I'm more optimistic than you are. And I didn't know how optimistic I was, and he didn't know how optimistic I was, but he just wanted to be sure that he was getting his oar in a little early, you know, in there. And that's really the most pressure that I've felt. You know, the political process works better if you have good information. And I think all the governors realized that, and especially early on when we were just coming off the big problems, the big budget problems that we had in the early 1980s. And so I think governors wanted, I mean, every governor always wanted more money. That there was no doubt about that. But I think what they wanted was they wanted a fair, professionally done count of how much money they could expect. They knew it was going to be wrong, but they thought it was better than throwing a dart or anything like that.
What about the moment with Governor Pawlenty when he said that you were pessimistic, overly pessimistic? Was that kind of a more tense time in your tenure?
No, I didn't feel like that was a real tense time. I mean, the governor has a role, and part of the governor's role is to be a cheerleader for the state's economy, to be a booster of the state's economy. And so he was playing his role, and I was playing my role, which was trying to give him and the people of the state, too, at that time, a good idea of how serious the economic times that we were in were at that time. So it was, you know, it's just two people playing their roles in the process.
Can you talk about how technology has changed over these last 26 years, too, to make your job maybe easier, and what it looked like before versus how far we've come?
Oh, yeah, this is a great story. In 1987, when I started to do the income tax, we have an income tax sample of somewhere 25 to 35,000 returns, depending upon which year it is. And the way we do the income tax is we take this sample, and then the wage line on everybody's return that's in the sample, we multiply that by a number that's the growth in wages and the dividends and the interest and the proprietor's income and the farm income and the capital gains and on and on. And then also all the deductions and exemptions and all these kinds of things, we all do that. So basically what we do is we age the state's taxpayer or to state tax filers 1 year at a time over the period of the forecast. Well, when we did that in 1987, when we did that, that routine was on the mainframe computer. We could do it 2 times, maybe 3 times in a day if we were lucky. We had these long sheets of computer paper that must have stretched halfway across this room anyway, and we'd put them on a table, and then we'd put another one on the next run on the table next to it, and we'd slide them together and look and see what numbers there were and so on like that. Shortly after that, we started. The House Research, Lung Fai Wong from the House Research Group wrote a PC version, and at that time, if you were really on the fringes of technology, you used what was called a math coprocessor 8287 chip, and we had computers with an 8287 chip, and we thought we were in heaven because we could now do one every 20 minutes, and so we could put in a run, go to Wendy's and get a hamburger, come back, and it would be almost done. Now, what does it take, John? 3 seconds, something? Yeah, something. 10 seconds, something like that. So it just allows us to try more combinations, look at more things a lot better and a lot more quickly. And the biggest problem with doing the forecast is that you just live in fear of the $200 million arithmetic mistake. And now, because we have so much more computing capacity, we can check stuff and recheck stuff and recheck stuff again. And then after we come up with a number, recheck it again after that. That allows us to sleep a little bit better without worrying about the 200 million arithmetic mistake.
Dr. Stinson, did you ever make a $200 million arithmetic mistake?
No. No. Now, there have been times that we worried we might have, but the way we do the forecast, we come up with a number on Monday morning, the week before the forecast is released. And we tell everybody, this is a tentative number. Don't lock in on the number, but this is where we think we're at. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, John goes back and redoes everything, starting from scratch. He and I work together. He and I and Matt and I work as a group up to that point, but then John goes back and does everything all over again. We found a lot of arithmetic mistakes between the Monday number and the number that we lock in on Thursday, but we've never gone out with a number that was bad.
Follow up on that, did you ever look back on a forecast and say, man, I really botched that one?
No, actually, to the extent that we've looked back on them and evaluated them, we've said, God, I can't believe how close we were on that, given how little we knew.
Look ahead to the next 10 or 20 years of Minnesota's economy. What do you think is in store for the state, and perhaps what worries you the most?
One of the things that I learned over the last 26 years or so that I kind of thought before I took the job, but it's been impressive on me, is how good Minnesota's economy has been. Since if you look at the long period, Minnesota's economy has actually done extraordinarily well compared to the economies of other states. And looking out the next 10 or 20 years, the question is, can we continue to do that? And the big issue, the big concern, is the demographics and the quality of the workforce. And we have a situation that is going to be extraordinarily challenging, I guess, and that is that high school graduation rates in this state are just really not at the level that they should be. They're not at the level that we need to be. Now, I can't remember, my friend Tom Gillespie over there on the side, and I've talked about this, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but the exact numbers are something like this, that right now in the workforce, 92% of the workforce has a high school diploma. And of the people, that's the people over 24, 25 to 65. Of the people that are entering the workforce now, we have a high school graduation rate of something like 77% or something like that, in the 70s. Anyway, so as people retire out of the existing workforce, we're losing 92 high school diplomas. And as 100 people move in to the workforce from, age into suddenly reach the age that they're in the workforce, we're getting back 77 high school diplomas. So we're losing 15. We're diluting the quality of our workforce just on that simple measure of high school diplomas. So that's going to be the challenge. And the states and the regions that figure out how to deal with that, how to improve the productivity and the quality of the workforce, they're going to be the ones that are most successful. And that's really the big challenge that the state has looking out 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into the future. And it's especially a problem because the minority graduation rates, the black, the Latino, the Native American graduation rates are down around 50%. And if you think about it, you know, if you don't have a high school diploma, you're just doomed to compete against the lowest of the low-wage workers throughout the world, and that's just not a good situation to be in. So that's a challenge looking out 30 years from now.
What do you think is different about Minnesota's economy that makes it better than the other states you mentioned? I mean, it's better. We're doing better here than Wisconsin or Illinois.
It's the quality of the workforce. And that's what's at risk if we don't do a good job expanding educational opportunity. And of course, I wouldn't want people to think that I thought a high school diploma was the be-all and end-all or anything like that. That's only the first step. But if you don't make that first step, you're going to be really challenged looking into the future. Annie.
What's your proudest moment in your tenure as state economist?
Geez, I don't know. I'm proud of almost all of the stuff that we've done. We've made good calls. We've made so many good calls. They all just kind of blend together. You ought to ask Laura some questions. She needs the experience of dealing with you. I was going to correct a couple things, though, that were on NPR's news release today.
News release.
Yeah, or whatever. Maybe it's a blog. That's what it was. Okay. And first is said I was resigning. I'm not resigning. I'm still going to be around. I'm still going to be at the university. And the second is that I'm not 71. I'm 70. Now, one of my goals is to get to 71, and actually older than 71, but I haven't attained that goal yet. So why don't you ask Laura some questions?
What has been your experience in forecasting?
In forecasting, I've been studying the public sector economics either in the public sector or in academia for 20-some years now. When I was at the U.S. Department of Treasury's Office of Tax Analysis, I provided analysis of tax proposals, and we built models to estimate the revenue effects of changes in tax policy. Since I've been at the university, I've been teaching public sector economics or public finance. I've been co-teaching with Tom and doing research on federal and state tax policy. I've been working closely with Tom for 13 years now.
You're in the politics of this job, which is, you obviously have to do the forecast, but there's a lot of political pressure as well.
Yeah, well, to be honest, my focus, I know enough about the process of producing the forecast to know that it's not a straightforward process, and it's complicated and challenging, and I have a lot to learn, and so my focus is on doing that job and on estimating and the revenue that's going to be coming into the state and producing accurate and relevant forecasts to continue the long tradition that Tom and his staff have developed in the Economic Analysis Division and MMB.
What are you looking forward to most about the job?
What am I looking forward to? Well, I know I'm going to enjoy working with the staff, with Matt Shepner and John Peliquin, and I've got a great supportive commissioner to work with as well. I have been kind of surprised and interested to see just how much economics is involved in the wide range of economic questions that the staff, Tom and the staff, have to address. All aspects of the state economy, macroeconomy, labor, corporate finance, all sorts of things. And so I think that variety is going to be really interesting.
Can you just give a little snapshot, too, just of where you think the economy sits right now? I mean, Dr. Stinson said that some of the worst perils are past, but it's not like all the problems in the economy are settled just yet. I mean, there are some effects of sequestration and things like this. So what's your, sort of read on the state's economy right now?
Yeah, well, the most recent data on the national economy, have a slightly reduced, GDP growth that is slightly lower than what the previously forecast was. So there's still some effects of sequestration that are likely to be felt in the macroeconomy. We may be feeling most of it right now, but that's still going to create some fiscal drag on the macroeconomy, and the state depends on that as well. But as you heard from Tom talking about the workforce in terms of employment and unemployment, well, nationally, the unemployment rate is still quite high at 7.5%. The state unemployment rate is usually below that, and we still are below that at about 5.3%. But that gap is a little larger than we're used to seeing, and so the state economy is doing pretty well relative to the nation as a whole.
Do you have any concerns about the last two sets of job numbers actually being pretty bad news? I mean, that's amidst a lot of other positive indicators, but is that concerning to you?
Well, we're watching it. We're going to be watching it and see whether that's a trend or it's a correction. What's going to happen next?
Were you at the room in March or in February when they kind of started doing the forecast, the last forecast?
Yes.
So you kind of where some of the bodies are buried and how things are. Maybe I should how things kind of work through the cycle.
Yes, I observed the forecast process in this past year, the last two forecasts, November and February, which is why I know how challenging and intricate the process is.
Okay. Because I think that's a great transition point because, part of what Dr. Stinson brought to the job was a professionalism and an understanding of many intricacies putting together a forecast with all the variables, and part of what he did was start to talk with his colleague. So part of what we did was to try and find somebody who could continue that tradition, and Laura has been inside the room, certainly knows the staff, knows the process, and is lined up to carry on. But for now, I think join me in thanking Tom Stinson for his public service. We will continue to be working together. He will continue to be working with us for the next month or two. There'll be a formal farewell celebration that we'll let you all know about, but not in the media sense. But I think that's the end of today's announcements. Thank you.